Okay, here we are back again with another video. And, first and foremost, I love watching all these YouTube videos. All these YouTube reviewers talk about a new camera system that they may or may not have. Honestly, everything you hear out there is pretty speculative. We have no idea what these camera companies will or will not do with any upcoming models. So anything that people are telling you is usually more or less a wish list for something that they're hoping that they see in a new camera system, but it's probably not too much of anything based on factual basis, if that makes any sense. All right, so now that little public service announcement is out of the way, we can concentrate on what my wish list would be for a brand new Leica Q3. Now, I'm not basing any part of this list on, my hopes and dreams for a new camera system and what it could be, but I'm kind of looking at it logically of what a company like Leica, I always do that, Leica, what a company that Leica, or like Leica, might actually giving its current roadmap that they already have out. Now, again, let me get it right out of the way. I'm unscripted, so if my delivery in these YouTube videos come off as a little bit unpolished, that's because I basically talk from the heart about how I feel. I do have some notes written down on my iPad here just so I don't kind of lose my chronological order and things, but I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. So if people are going to sit there and criticize my delivery, by all means, go ahead. So, like I said, we don't know what the current roadmap, is going to look like in the future. But if we can kind of base it off of what we see, we got to look at things logically. So, number one, logically, and what we can look for is, yes, I believe we will have a Leica Q3, and I believe that we are hearing possibility of it being announced in February of 2023. Now, again, that's just what I've heard online. I haven't seen anything definitive. Maybe you have. I have no ideas. A while back, I heard that the Leica Q3 was going to have possibly a 35 millimeter lens instead of a fixed 28 like the Q2. I also heard another rumor, or maybe, again, a wish list, that there would be a 50 millimeter version of the camera. To be honest with you, I don't see Leica doing anything like that for a few reasons. And number one, the camera already works at 42 megapixels. I believe it's 42. It could be 48. I'm really bad with the numbers and, again, the specifics, but 42, 48 regardless. It allows you to crop from 28, 35, 50, and 75 just by using that button in the rear right here. This little button underneath the thumb stud. You can crop your frame lines. Now, again, in a RAW file, the DNG file, you're going to get the full aspect. But for JPEG, it will show the cropped image. And also, when you pull it into your editing software, I'm not too up to date on Capture One, but with Lightroom, it will show the crop lines that, you took it at. But regardless, I think that they're going to stick with the 28 Sumulux. I think they're going to stay with it. It's a fantastic lens. It's perfectly paired with the sensor. I think we're going to see the same lens, and I think they're not really going to improve anything. I think they're going to keep the lens the same. I don't think it needs an improvement. It's very fast at focusing. It's very quiet. It has a beautiful manual focus feel to it. It also has that macro capability that you can switch right on the top here by just switching the ring. You can switch the Q2 into manual macro focus rather, and I believe you'll get the same thing with the new Q3. But I think what you will see with the Q3 is the same sensor that they have put in the M11. I believe it'll be the same processor. The Maestro, I don't know what they're up to now, but it'll be same processor. I believe it'll be the same 61, I believe it is, or 62 megapixels, I believe is what the M11 has. So I think you're going to see that same sensor. along the line. And that further supports my reasoning for them staying at a 28. And, you know, again, I think if they stay at a 28, you're still going to just see more usability at 35 millimeters, 50 and 75. It's going to give you more megapixels at those crop factors. So if they started at 35, you really can't go backwards to 28, but you can always go, if you start at 28, you can always go north and hit 35, 50 and 75. I mean, again, if you're at 61 megapixels, you have considerable resolution at 50 megapixels. Or at a 50 millimeter focal length. So I think that strongly supports them staying at the 28 millimeter Summilux fixed lens on the Q3. Again, I don't see them changing that up. It is a fantastic lens. There's really no reason to do anything different. You know, I think a few of the, you know, photos that we may have seen were people talking about the rear LCD screen and the buttons. A lot of people said that they saw some of the buttons on the rear were now gone. They have disappeared. Now, again, those are just speculations and concept drawings. I don't know that it's going to be anything different. As it sits right now, you really only have a center button, a D-pad, you know, a directional pad, and this isn't even a scroll wheel. It's just a push pad. You have this small function button here. You have a play, a function, and a menu, and you have this dial here for ISO or whatever you want to assign it to, and you have this center button that you can push right here. So there really isn't a ton of buttons as it is. This little thing right here is a button, but that's just to adjust your diopter. For those of you that have never, you know, seen a Q3 or held one in their hands, that's what that's for. And it's a great design because it doesn't get bumped while out on the street. And, you know, let's face it, that's what the Q series really is. Is it a reportage? That's a fancy word. It's a reporter camera. It's a documentary style photographer's camera. It's meant to travel. It's meant to be beat around. It's weatherproof. It's, you know, it's very robust. So I think that, you know, you're going to see kind of a similar layout. If they did lose the buttons, then that means that we're going to see more touchscreen gestures, which, my opinion, I can't stand it. I was an avid user of Fujifilm cameras in my past. I don't shoot Fuji that much anymore. To be honest with you, something like the Fujifilm Xe4 kind of did away with all the buttons as well. And I just found it to be a pain to use swiping functions up and down, left and right for different, you know, situations. And it just became very cumbersome and it became very slow. And sometimes the screen was non-reactive while you're swiping on it. And it just became more of a pain than it was, you know, an addition, a plus, if you will. And the other thing that really stinks is, for me, I'm a stickler for a clean LCD screen, and now you have fingerprint smudges all over the back of your screen, and I'm constantly wiping it off with my shirt, and it's just, no, it was no good for me. Now, speaking of the LCD screen, I can see them implementing a tilt screen, and that would be a first for Leica, I believe. I think my stats are accurate on that. I do not believe that they have a tilt screen on any other camera system. So I think you will see a tilt screen. And I think if they do a tilt screen, it would be a good idea to implement it in the same fashion that Fujifilm has done with their X100V, keeping it flush, non-obtrusive against the body. You know, one of the main key features of a Leica camera is their design and their aesthetic. They're beautifully made, they're beautifully designed, very minimalistic. And I think that if you're going to add some bulky, honking rear LCD screen panel flip out move, it's just going to ruin the design of the camera and it's going to turn a lot of people off. But I think if you can get it flush enough to the rear body, then you're going to satisfy a lot of people and not have to deal with so many gripes. Now, if they do a flip out screen, that may mean that they have to relocate these rear function buttons, and they can do that a couple ways. They can actually put it on the screen, itself, the part that flips out. I have seen that done before, so they can kind of access it that way, and that may work. Again, I think if they're going to do that, make the screen a little bit bigger. If they're going to start adding some real estate back here, then make the screen a little bit bigger, and I'll always deal with a higher resolution screen. The screen on the back of this is fine, but if you're going to give me something a little bit better, I'm not going to complain about it. The EVF. I would love to see a new adaptation of the EVF. The EVF is fine as it stands. It's not a big deal, but it's on par with everything you see on the market. I think it's 3.63 million dots resolution. It's fine. It works. A lot of people have said that the EVF is not consistent with the rear LCD screen or the file that they have. I've never really noticed the difference. I'm kind of all over the board when it comes to exposing, so I'm not really too worried about colors because mostly I'm shooting in RAW anyway, DNG, so I really don't care what the colors look like. I'm more tuned into the exposure and the tonality. And speaking of that, if they are to mess around with the internal processor and sensor of this camera, I hope that they can do something with the highlights, because the highlights can clip very easily on the Q2. If the Q3 comes out, I hope they kind of implement something to help with that clipping of the highlights, in addition to the highlight weighted metering that is already in this camera. So either implement it better or do something with the higher end sensor, or dynamics of the sensor to handle those highlights a little bit better. Shadow recovery is fantastic on this camera. But going back to the EVF, if they do a newer EVF on the Q3, I hope that they at least pump it up to, the 5.76 million dot resolution screens that we see like on the SL model. They can do it without a doubt. It wouldn't be hard for them to do that and just give me that higher resolution screen. Again, I have my notes over here. Now we know Leica is a brand that's dedicated to street photography, reportage, there's that word again, style photographers. But that doesn't mean that they can't enhance or embrace some of the new trends in the market. I think they would be shooting themselves in the foot if they did not embrace some of the current trends, mainly that of video. Yes, we know that we have the SL line for video and, a DSLR style version of Leica cameras. And a lot of creators are using that, but, video has become a huge thing for creators out there now, and they're using video on a daily basis, especially for, Reels and TikTok and YouTube and vertical video and everything like that. I think if the Leica Q2, the new version of it, the Q3, was to add some higher end video specs, it would be a big win. Right now with the Q2, we do have, DCI, we do have 4K. It's not the best. I've done a video on it. You can see it on YouTube, some video samples of the Q2 for video. It does okay. But what would be perfect? I don't even know about perfect, but again, a wish list. I think if they gave us a log, if they gave us L log and at least 60 frames per second in 4K, at least give us that, it would be workable. You would be able to have some added functionality and creativity that you could pull off with the Q3. And if you really want to get crazy and, make everybody's dream come true, add an internal ND filter on the newer Q3. If you put an internal ND filter in this camera, man, it would be fantastic. That would be like, I don't want to use that word game changer because nothing's really a game changer, but it would be really awesome if they would put an ND filter internally in this. There's no reason why they can't, Maybe with the lens design being a Summilux, there are certain elements, maybe it can't be done, but I'm sure at the sensor level, and not so much the lens level, but at the sensor plane, there is a way to slide a little ND filter action in there and give us like a 3-stopper. And again, 60 frames a second, 4K, and give us an L-log. And if you're going to go all that crazy, you know, it would be nice if they added a multi-interface shoe up top for audio. And the only reason why I say that is because the Q2 has no ports. Now, the new M11 does have a USB-C port on the bottom. I'll get into that in a second. The Q2 has no external ports or flaps or doors or anything fancy like that. And I do not see them adding anything to that fact with the Q3. Again, sorry if my delivery here is a little unpolished, but I'm just basically talking from the heart here. So my words may not always be correct, but I do not see them adding any port doors or anything like that. But if they did a multi-function hot shoe interface where I can add something like the Sony microphone, you know, like if you want to, you know, make your own microphone and charge $1,000 for it, I'm sure you will, but you could put that on top and have that flip out screen or that tilt screen with the multi-interface mic. And, you know, just to quote Peter McKinnon, Bob's your uncle. I think it would be awesome. Next, autofocus. I don't think we're going to see a big jump in this category. It would be nice if they gave us some serious video functionality to allow us to have like face and eye detection and continuous AF to go along with my new L-log and my 60 frames per second. I'm not asking for too much. I'm not asking you to give me, you know, a 7S3, 120 frames per second, continuous AF with I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for 60 frames per second. I'm asking for L-log. I'm asking for a way to add some serious audio capabilities. And, you know, again, it would be awesome if they would just make sure that that AF is on par with something similar to give us some nice things. You know, the other thing that I could see is if they're going to give us, if we go back to the sensor and they go back to 60 frames per second, what did I even say that? 61 megapixels I meant. I told you, I'm unscripted. I'm not changing my ways, guys. I'm not doing it. I'm sticking to the way I do things. If they were to give us that higher megapixel count, that 61, 62 megapixels, it would be nice if they gave us the same feature that we're seeing on the M11, which I believe they will, and we can get more compressed files for like a small DNG or a small RAW or a medium RAW or more compressed files that we can save on our disk storage when we go and pump these things into our desktops or our hard drives to edit out on our, you know, editing software. It would also be cool if they gave us an internal storage, internal memory. The Q3 coming out, just like the Q2, these cameras are meant to grab and go. They are vacation shooters. They are travel cameras. These are cameras that, again, let's face it, if you want to get into the Leica lineup, this is probably your easiest way to get into that lineup by grabbing a Q series, whether it be a Q, a QP, you know, a Q2 variant, a monochrome. You know, they're still expensive. They're still built Leica quality, but they are obtainable. They are not the $8,000, $9,000 M series. And arguably there are more features within a camera like this because of the autofocus and the different parameters that it gives you. But that being said, these are meant for the grab and go. These are meant for the guy that maybe owns an M, but doesn't always want to shoot an M, but still wants to shoot Leica. So, you know, these are, you know, great for the, I hate to use the term, the everyday shooter, because anybody that's shooting a Leica Q as an everyday shooter is doing pretty good. It took me a while to get up to a Q. I have a QP and I have the Q2. I would love to get a Q3, but I think if they gave us some internal storage, that would be absolutely amazing, because now you're in a situation where you could literally just grab this camera, charge up the battery, or have a battery charged up, or even be able to charge on the go if they gave us that new USB-C port on the bottom, charge on the go, and, you know, have that internal storage that if you don't have a memory card with you, or if you're in an area where you can't get one or you forgot it at home, you can still take a good amount of files. I mean, we know how small memory cards and SD cards and even, you know, flash drives and you know, SSDs are nowadays. You mean to tell me that they can't put in like 500 and something, you know, gigs in this? You couldn't put a terabyte in that? Of course you could. But let's just say they don't want to go that hard. Give us 256 gigabyte. Give us a serious internal memory storage. And man, that would be absolutely amazing. Anyway, this has gone on for quite some time. I don't want to make the video too long, but I do want to tell you what my thoughts and wish lists are for a new Leica Q3 that I do believe we will see out. I think we'll see a regular Q3 version, and then maybe like a Q3 kind of like the QP, where maybe it's all blacked out, and then you're going to start seeing the monochrome, and then probably after that you'll start seeing the special editions like the Reporter, or maybe even a Safari or whatnot. But I think we'll see a Q3. I think it's going to be amazing. Will I buy it? Absolutely. You know, when the time is right, I would love to have my hands on it. I can honestly say to you, being an owner of a QP, a Q2, a Leica TL, and a Leica M10, this camera has gone with me to more places than anything else. I have used this camera along with my QP more than any other camera. Certainly for any kind of traveling, I always resort back to it. I take other cameras on vacation, but I usually always have this one as well. And if I'm only going to take one, I know that I can trust the fact that it has a great focal length. It has amazing files that I can work and edit. It has great resolution. It has great build functionality, weatherproofing. It's fast enough. And I know that the image is going to be unparalleled. And I think a Q3 with those functions and features that I wished for in this video were to actually be implemented in a new system, I think it's a win for everybody. Anyway, guys, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this long, drawn-out video. I hope you like this new overhead style video that I'm doing here. I have a new setup in my office, new setup in the studio here, and I'm just trying to implement some new things, some new content for you. If you like the way I color grade my photos, please head over to the website and check out all my presets for Lightroom. Check out the website, check out my Instagram, Joe D'Agostino Photo. And again, thank you for all your support, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Later.